Live. Hey, we're
Yeah,
live.
there we go.
Well, welcome everybody to another Tag You're It live cast. We said 5 o'clock. We're starting a little bit early to talk about a few things. And if you notice, this is not Dave. Who is he? Well, he's not Dave, right?
I'm not Dave. No,
But
it's not the last time I checked.
Yeah, this is like number 3, right?
3 or 4, something
3
like
or
that.
4.
Yeah.
We're starting to lose count. So
Yeah.
But yeah, welcome Adam to the table, the Soli Deo Gloria table of the Tag You're It podcast and live cast. So today's filling in for Dave because Dave is camping with his youth people in his church this week. So he could not make it today. And Dave, if you hear this, we love you.
We're praying for energy.
Praying for energy.
Yeah.
And again, thanks for letting Adam and I have the opportunity because we're going to talk with somebody that has really influenced us in our ministries greatly. And so this is another, like we had Tom Askell on the show. And that was the last time Adam was here. That was a dream episode for me. So this is another one of those episodes I am so happy to be able to be a part of and put out here for Southwest Missouri. Hopefully more people hear about it. But anyway, it's going to be awesome. So anyway, thank you, Dave, for letting the show go on. And, just, again, energy be with you, be with your kids, give them the gospel, and go on from there. But anyway, but some few orders of business is we have a new cool sign given to us by the Missouri Baptist Convention, the Apologetics Network. So you'll see that. That's used for the show, and then we'll be actually hitting up some conventions this year.
Yeah. So
that's going to be awesome. And then also, Adam wanted to talk about there's a book publisher that we both have bought books from. And so tell us more about that, Adam.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with Solid Ground Christian Books, if you are a Baptist and you are Reformed specifically, that should be the number one place you look for books. Aside from your local bookstores, obviously. But he's got a wonderful selection of books that are just tough to find anymore and tough to find at a reasonable price. So we both got works by old Puritans. I just got these in the mail today. He self-published copies of the Baptist Confession of Faith and the Baptist Catechism, and then the Three Forms of Unity. Mm-hmm. And these are a bonded leather, just very, very nice. I was so excited. I accidentally sent mine to the wrong address, so I had to wait like a month to get mine, and I kind of kicked myself for that because I was so excited to get them in the mail. He's got the entire collection essentially of Cornelius Van Til. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of James White, just so many good books and at a really great price. I got one time I got 6 James White books for like $30.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's wonderful. And he's the owner, Michael, he is having some health issues currently, and so he's trying to push some more volume. And he's been putting a lot of things on sale. That's how I got my 2 copies here. I got those both for $25. Go pay him a visit, give him some business because you're going to get a great product, and you're going to help out a brother in the faith who is trying to get good Christian works in the hands of as many people as possible.
Yeah, and for those of you that want to get into some good theology studies, I just wanted to show a couple of things that I got from Solid Ground anyway. And there's the number one book that I got from, which is really awesome, is the Distinctiveness of Baptist Covenant Theology. So whenever they say you can't be a Baptist and covenantal, yes, you can. And here's a good book. Also,
I've read that one too. Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's a wonderful. Yeah. It's readable. It's enjoyable, actually, compared to a lot of other theology books. It explains things to where you can understand it without, getting like, this is over my head. Also, some really good material in covenant theology, Baptist Distinctive, where it has some different contributors in on the mix to talk about the covenants, explain those. And then just, I got to preach for my first time on Sola Gratia, so I picked up Isaac Backus, which is an old American Baptist, talking about the doctrine of sovereign grace. So, I mean, he's got tons of good stuff. So we're not just talking about, liturgy and stuff like that, Christian living, to hard, heavy theology stuff. So he's got something for everybody. But yeah, Solid Ground Books is amazing what they have, and I wish I could spend my whole bank account there. But anyway, go give him some business. He didn't pay us for this. This is
just because we like him.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally worth going to his website and getting at least something to learn something great. So, but anyway, that's the business that we had to put aside. It is 5:03, And so what we're going to do, which is the main thrust of this discussion tonight, is we're going to talk with a man named Jeff Durbin. He's in Phoenix, Arizona. Tempe, Arizona to be exact anyway. But yeah, again, he's a man that has influenced our ministries immensely. So we're going to be talking about abortion tonight. So trigger warning, but it needs to be dealt with. Absolutely. And so we're going to talk about that. So if you want to give him a call, just give us a few minutes. We'll get him on the phone.
Hi, this is Jeff.
Hey, Pastor Jeff. This is Adam Kyle and Adam Cochran with the T.A.G podcast from Springfield, Missouri. How are you today?
What's up, Adams? I'm doing
Hey,
well.
Jeffs.
Good. Well, thanks so much for agreeing to come on today. This is pretty big for both of us. We're both huge fans of your ministry. And as a personal compliment to you, the first time I really heard you was when you were on the Jesse Lee Peterson show for that first time. Not that I listened to Jesse Lee Peterson, but somebody had sent me a link, and I've seen you. We've interacted on Facebook several times, and I'd seen your stuff, but the first time I actually heard you being berated as he was trying to turn you into a sinless perfectionist, I was like, man, this guy knows how to handle things with charity and love and discipline. And so that was like, I'm a Jeff Durbin guy after this.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
I'm so glad it blessed you guys. I think that's encouraging.
Yeah, and I mean you're majorly impressionable because it's really awesome because you talked with Austin Peterson on your show.
Yeah.
And it was really awesome because he came here to Missouri State to have a talk.
That's actually how you and I met.
Yeah, that's how
I was the one who organized that, and Adam came.
Yeah, and it was really awesome because I had a Soli Deo Gloria shirt on, and show up there and I get to shake his hand and stuff. And so he's like, "So you're a libertarian, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess you can sort of say I'm a libertarian." I was like, "You know that Jeff Durbin guy that you talked to?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm one of those guys." And he just gave me this look of, "Oh." So you made a pretty good impression.
Yeah.
Good.
So awesome.
I'm hoping when Austin comes down, he said that when he comes down next time, he's going to come and have dinner with us. So
well, good.
I'm hoping to keep reaching him.
Yeah. Keep working, man. That's amazing.
I've gotten to have lunch with him before. He's a good guy. He's I mean, obviously some big disagreement there when it comes to our foundational principles for where morality comes from, but he does seem like he actually does search for truth, which is good, because he is somewhat open about his inconsistencies too. So just from what I've seen from other people, so
he can't shake his Christianity.
No.
That's right. And I actually, the reason I have such a passion for Austin is because I think that, obviously it's the Spirit of God that draws us all to Christ and opens our eyes to the truth, but I really think that he's just ripe for the picking.
I agree.
Because he seems so open to examination, which is really a rare trait, especially with someone that can kind of carry himself the way that he does.
Absolutely.
And speak the way that he does. So it's exciting. I hope that in 5 years from now he's in Christ and he's preaching the gospel.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. But anyway, we know a lot about you.
Absolutely.
But this area does not. There's a lot of people in this area that don't know about you and about your ministry. So could you just, instead of us reading off a bio, give us a little bit about Jeff Durbin?
Oh, so we're recording right now.
Yeah, we are. We're going.
From the beginning. All right, here we go. So I don't know. I wasn't raised in a Christian home. So I wasn't raised under the hearing of the gospel, going to church or anything like that. Heard the story that you can be forgiven and have eternal life and go to heaven one day from Billy Graham one night when I was home from teaching karate, like around 16 or 17 years old, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. And so I prayed that prayer and called the 1-800 number. They sent me a Gospel of John and some audio cassette tapes, and so I had a profession of faith for some time. My wife and I debate to this day over whether I was really a believer then. I tend to think I really wasn't a believer, just not sure. So started going to church, getting into the Word, all that stuff going. I actually moved to Arizona, went to Bible college. I was competing on a national, or actually an international level at the time in martial arts, and so I was traveling across the country constantly. And what brought me out to Arizona is it was closer to LA. I had an opportunity to teach for some karate schools out here. And so some time went on. I got married, and shortly after I was married, I got into a drug and alcohol addiction. I spent about a year just in depravity in that. And after that year, God broke me, just shattered my life and drew me back to the scriptures. And so I started reading the Bible again and reading it what seemed like for the first time, and started to really acknowledge a difference between the gospel that I had understood to the gospel that Jesus and the apostles were preaching, and began to really question whether I ever actually repented and turned to Christ for salvation, or I didn't know if it was just for heaven one day, or whether I really wanted to be saved from my sin. And so God challenged me, broke my heart over my sin. I turned to Christ there, and my life began to transform from that point on. And so let's see here. Wasn't pursuing ministry. Actually, I told my wife at one point that I was happy just to scrub toilets at church, and that's where my heart was. That's where God had brought me. Really? And after some time, the elders of the church that I was at began to tell me, no, you're supposed to be teaching, you're supposed to be doing this. So it sort of made me, they were like, you're teaching this Sunday, youth group, and I was really resistant at first, and after a little bit of time of teaching, I started to get opportunities to teach elsewhere, and the elders of the church I was at officially made me the college pastor, and while I was doing that, I ended up getting an opportunity to be a pastor at the oldest drug and alcohol rehab in Arizona, and it wasn't on my radar, wasn't even thinking about it. I didn't think about an addiction ministry. It wasn't even part of my thought, not by any stretch of the imagination. And I just had this incredible opportunity to come to this hospital and to preach to a Catholic who couldn't leave about Christ and the gospel and drug and alcohol addiction. And what ended up happening is that hospital asked me to take over as the head chaplain of the hospital and to be the pastor there. And I accepted it, and after some time being a pastor at the church I was at and being a pastor at the hospital at the same time, so many people were coming to Christ out of that hospital, it became really, really clear that they needed someone to shepherd them and to care for them on a regular basis with their unique needs. And so I resisted for a long time, and Pastor Luke, who is my sidekick, my partner in ministry, he and I both really resisted for a while. Because we just had never thought of planting a church. It wasn't something we ever considered. And so we resisted, and then we started having men come into our lives, godly men, pastors, seminary professors that knew me, and close pastors to us that started calling us and telling us, you need to plant this church, you have to plant this church. And then I eventually had a pastor friend of mine who knows me very well. He called me, he said, Jeff, if you don't plant this church, you're sinning against God. So I took that very seriously, because you're right in the midst of really serious prayer about what God wanted us to do. So we started to put things before the Lord. We said, Lord, if you want us to plant this church, it has to be your will, it has to be your doing. We're not going to build this thing. It has to be you. So make it clear. We feel like you've spoken to us through these men and through our circumstances in a way, but make it clear. So we started presenting things before the Lord, just ridiculous, absolutely crazy requests. We said, Lord, if you want this, give us this. And then the next day it would happen. Wow. So we would say, okay, again, if you want this, give us this. And that happened for some time. It got to the point where we knew we were just sort of stretching at this point. God was already answering us. So we placed one final request before the Lord, and it was the most crazy request. It could not happen, should not have happened, and we asked him for it, and I think it was that very day it happened. And so we said, all right, Lord, we're in. So the elders of the church I was at laid hands on me, sent me, and we planted Apologia Church at a drug rehab in their family building almost a decade ago. And from that time, since that time, I know of thousands of people that have come to Christ out of drug and alcohol addiction. And at the same time, we've always had a passion for outreach in the public square. And so as we've been raising this church up and growing this church, we've also been doing what we always do, and that's outreach and hitting the streets and getting into conflict in the public square, posting the content itself so the world can see, so it could maybe reach people who are in the cults or atheism or what have you. And so we eventually started a radio program, and that radio program kind of blew up and ended up getting like over 1 million views or 1 million listens a year. And it was just reaching around the world. We got contact from people all over the world, Africa, in Muslim-dominated countries, Christians who are in hiding all over South America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all over Europe, and Russia even, people who are just being dramatically changed by their ministry. And so God's just grown that. And then, of course, one big aspect of our ministry is End Abortion Now, where we started going out to the abortion mills. And as God was saving children through that ministry of the gospel at the abortion mill, we started talking about it on Apologia Radio. Hey, God saved another child this weekend. And as we talked about it, people started either contacting us, asking us for help to do it, or they just started doing it. And then what happened was so many children started getting saved through this ministry across the country. And it became clear to us that people were sort of looking at us saying, okay, what do we do next? That God led us to the next step, and that was with End Abortion Now, to officially equip churches across the country, local churches, to go out and do this ministry and to work together to work for the criminalization of abortion and to keep the gospel as the center of the fight against abortion. And so from that time, I think we have close to 300 churches that are now involved across the country who are out saving children. Thousands of children have been saved at this point. And I'll finish on this note. We didn't expect this, but we wanted to have a gospel emphasis in the area of ending abortion. And that message is now in Ireland, and there are churches in Ireland that are connected to us that are now going to be engaging this now that abortion is legalized in Southern Ireland. Yeah. We also have churches in the Northern Ireland part that are also connected with us that are working now to halt it with the gospel. And we now got good news, and that is that churches in Australia and New Zealand are now also going to be connected with us doing the same thing. So by the end of the year, End Abortion Now will be international.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. And so, I mean, you got into that, you know, I didn't have to bring in the End Abortion Now stuff into this. But anyway, whenever we're talking about ending abortion, there's been legal measures. There's been a lot of people out there that have fought for, or is like, I guess, politically fighting for, you know, abortion laws, trying to get the dates pushed back and back and back and back. Now, End Abortion Now is not a political movement, is it?
It's not. No, it's not primarily in a sense, I will say it's prophetically political. Yeah. And what I mean by that is it's political in the sense that it seeks to address the magistrate with the Word of God, with the gospel, with the Christian worldview. We're not political in the sense that we're working for an incremental change in terms of abortion in our country. Let's sort of whittle it down and work. We want to have a consistent Christian, biblical, gospel-soaked outlook in terms of how we approach the political process. So there's a political aspect in terms of us confronting the magistrate and calling them to faithfulness to God and to criminalize abortion in that aspect. But it's not the typical. Here's what we would try to say. We want to try to disassociate ourselves from the pro-life movement generally, because the pro-life movement, as grateful as we are to God for the ways that He has striked a straight blow with crooked sticks, the pro-life movement is not a gospel-centered, explicitly Christian movement, and so we don't believe that hearts can change through law. We don't think that hearts can change through incremental legislation. We think hearts can only change through the proclamation of the gospel. Yes. So we want a gospel-centered movement, even in the political arena. And some people might say, well, that's silly. You're not going to capture everybody that way. Not everyone's going to agree with you about the Christian principles. But we believe that the Christian worldview is true, and that it is the only truth, because that's the nature of truth. Right. And we believe that while pragmatism may seem appropriate for some people, pragmatism doesn't change hearts. Right. And we know that the only way that our nation will ever stop loving the murder of innocent unborn children is if their hearts are changed from stone to flesh, and that only comes through the gospel.
Amen. So yeah, that's the big thing, and I know that's kind of you had a question on this movement, pro-life, pro-gospel, abolitionist.
Right. Well, and one thing that you have said continually, Jeff, on Apologia Radio is how you distinguish, I guess, yourself and your ministry as an abolitionist group, not a pro-life group. So aside from the gospel, which is obviously the most important, when you are confronting the magistrates, how does an abolitionist go about that in a way that a pro-life person would not?
So we would seek for an immediate criminalization of abortion and not incremental changes. So we would not say that it's at all appropriate morally to say that we can kill all children under 20 weeks, but over 20 weeks is, that's not appropriate. We would say that we have to focus on the fundamental nature of abortion, that is the taking of an innocent human life with malice of forethought, which is that's what it is by legal definition. It is without question. It is irrefutable. It is a human being from the moment of conception. You don't need the Bible to tell you that. You can see that in medical science. However, we know that the Bible tells us that, so we operate with that assumption. So it's a human being from the moment of conception, uniquely designed and made by God, and to take an innocent human being's life in an unjust manner with malice of forethought is murder. And so we want to push the magistrate to consistency. This is a human being. It's taking the human being's life unjustly with malice of forethought. That's called murder across the board. And so we want to speak to them in that way. And so what we're seeking is the immediate end of abortion or criminalization. So people, say there's an abolitionist stance and a pro-life stance. So we would be in that category of criminalization, abolitionists. We want to abolish abortion, not merely regulate abortion. The pro-life movement is really particular about regulation on the way to whittling down abortion to ultimately, it's in a way, it's almost, it's a lack of integrity. The real goal of the pro-life movement, hopefully, is to end abortion completely. But there's a little bit of a lack of integrity going on in terms of how it's actually worked out to ending it. We say that we have the strength of the Word of God and science, biological science, on our side.
Absolutely.
We have the strength of case law to talk about what murder is and human beings and taking life unjustly. So we ought to fight with a consistent Christian, gospel-centered worldview against abortion. And just one note I'll make on that. This is really interesting. It's distressing. Years ago, we knew some people in Oklahoma that had submitted a bill with a man named Joseph Silk in Oklahoma. And it was a bill that was working to immediately criminalize abortion. And it was a great bill. It was a consistent bill. It was a fantastic bill. And here's the amazing thing. The Oklahoma legislature at the time was predominantly pro-life. They could have won that. They could have criminalized and ended abortion immediately in Oklahoma. And the travesty is that there was a man who was the vice president of National Right to Life named Tony Lowinger. He went into the Oklahoma legislature and they asked him, they said, Tony, how do you want us to vote on this? And he, who's the vice president of the largest pro-life movement in the world, he told the Oklahoma legislature, do not vote for this bill. This is a pro-life leader telling a legislature that asked him, what do you want us to do? He could have told them, pass the bill, and abortion would have been criminalized in Oklahoma. He told them, do not pass this bill. If you do, he says, it will undo all of our pro-life policies we put in place in Oklahoma. And to that I would say, well, isn't it obvious? Of course it would, because you wouldn't need them. But Tony Lowinger admitted, and I did an interview with him the day that he went into the legislature and did this. I did a public interview with him that's available on YouTube. Just search Jeff Durbin and Tony Lowinger. And in that interview, it was telling. He said in the interview that they were seeking in the pro-life movement to take a backdoor approach to ending abortion. He said that they did not want to use explicitly Christian language, words like repent, sin, faith in Christ. He said that they wanted to take the backdoor approach and the pro-life movement essentially approach it on a secular basis. We reject that completely.
Amen.
Yeah, Todd Friel was talking about that on Wretched Radio too after Southern Ireland passed the bill legalizing abortion. But one thing that kind of bothers me about the pro-life movement, it seems like in many ways, aside from coming at this from a secular point of view, it seems like they're potentially doing more harm than good, because Roe v. Wade that was a Supreme Court decision. If we were actually being constitutional, all the states should have just ignored that, because it's not legislation. But when these pro-life movements push for bills that say, okay, well, you can't abort anything, past 20 weeks. Well, what you're saying is, okay, but you can legally abort something, before 20 weeks. Yeah. And so you're actually putting it on paper that this is law, this is okay. And it seems like...
I'm really glad you brought that up, brother, because that is so vitally important for us to understand if we're ever going to win this thing. And that is that the way our republic works is the Constitution says it is Congress that creates legislation, right, not the Supreme Court. So when the Supreme Court gave their opinion with Roe v. Wade, it was a court opinion, and no state under our system of law was obligated to listen to it. It was built upon false premises. The false premises were, one of them was primarily that what's in the womb is potential human life. We know that that's false. It is human life from conception. It was a bad court opinion, but what happened was the states assumed that because the Supreme Court has given an opinion, that the states have to obey that. They do not. And so that's critical to understand that point, is that we do not have to listen to that. States have essentially rejected that opinion. And one aspect of that that's powerful is what's happening right now in Arizona, and we're about to start some hopefully righteous controversy around this soon. In Arizona, since the time of Roe v. Wade, it's been against the law to have an abortion in Arizona. It is still, right now, in Arizona, against the law to have an abortion. It's on the books. It's never been updated. It's never been changed. It's never been altered. Right now, it's illegal to have an abortion in Arizona. All we must do in Arizona is essentially point to the law that already exists and say it's against the law to have an abortion in Arizona. But we bought into the fiction that the Supreme Court actually creates law. They don't. One critical aspect, and I want everyone to hear this because it is so important to embrace it. When the pro-life movement in the states, at the state level, starts to institute legislation on the books at a state level that says things like abortions past 20 weeks shall be illegal, then what it has effectively done is this. If Roe v. Wade is overturned tomorrow, which it's not going to be, but if Roe v. Wade was overturned tomorrow, then that means abortion is still legal in all of the states where the pro-life movement has created legislation that says things like abortion shall be illegal after 20 weeks. So after Roe v. Wade falls, in every state where the pro-life movement has enacted these policies, those states will still have legal abortion even after Roe v. Wade.
That's sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's inconsistent all over.
Yeah.
And it's the fact of our hermeneutic and our apologetic and what we do, it's based on the Word of God, not the Word of man. Yeah. And so, that's the thing is, all you're going to see is absurdity and inconsistency with the laws. I've dealt with, I've had a girl that I've had to talk to, and she didn't like the fact that I did call her a murderer because she was totally fine with it.
Right.
But at the same time, I had to go where do your rights come from? If you have a right to your choice, this person also has a right to their life.
Right.
And so you have to recognize, okay, well, you both have a right. Which one does supersede it? Mm-hmm. Who gets to be the judge between who's in the right on this issue?
Absolutely. And
that only the gospel, like Jeff is saying, has that right to be able to tell you which of those choices is the right one to make. But man, that is it's heavy stuff. So. The thing is what people need to understand about Jeff, him with his church, not just him, but him with his church, and as he said, multiple churches all over the world now.
Right.
They're not just saying stuff. A lot of times Christians say, well, you're preaching too much, live it. Well, here we go. Here's your guy. Yeah. He says he's got a bunch of churches doing it too. These people are living it. So, what we need to get into is how do we get more churches into this?
Yeah.
How do we call, basically say me. I go to my church, the Way here in town, and say if I wanted to head this up, I have no clue.
Right.
I'm not majorly political. I'm not a guy that reads the books of law, so I have no clue what the laws are. I don't know what to do. I see, Jeff, that in your videos, you have paperwork handy to point to the police.
Right. Hey,
I'm in the right. Enforce this law. You are not enforcing this law. But I wouldn't know what to do. So whenever we're coming from this, whenever it comes to, now we've talked about it, now people are hearing this, what are we going to do about it? For me, what do I need to do to get into this movement, to be a part of it, just like you and your churches.
Well, and for those who don't know what Jeff does, I encourage you to go on YouTube and look up what Jeff and his church do out in front of Planned Parenthoods, because it is inspiring.
Yeah.
They'll go out there and they will talk. They will share the gospel. They will beg and plead with these women, do not kill your child.
Yeah.
And they will have people there. They will have avenues for them to go, saying, we know people who will take your child, who will adopt it, it will be raised in a loving home. They will be taken care of. All its needs will be met. All your needs will be met. And they do it in a way that, it's not the Pelagians on the street corner, telling women that they're sluts and that they're going to hell and stuff like that. It is from a stern but absolutely Christ-centered, loving way that they are pleading with these women, even when some of the people at the clinics become extraordinarily hostile to them. So,
That's right.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that in there for those who don't know that, Jeff.
Yeah, the emphasis is the gospel. It's just evangelism. It's an evangelism in the context of murder. I mean, that's truly what it is. So,
I like that.
There's aspects to this that are not complicated, and then there's aspects to this where, you got to do a little digging around. But overall, it's a pretty simple message. We go out with our local church to the abortion home where the killing is taking place. When the women come out of the car, we plead with them to not murder their child. We remind them that they're a mother and a father already, and we call out to them and we plead with them. Don't murder your child today. We want the law of God to convict them and impact their heart, what they're about to do, what they've been trying to suppress all week before they've gone. They've been trying to suppress what God has done in them, and that's exposed who they are, and what they're doing is wrong. We know that's taking place because they're image bearers of God too. So we use the law of God. We say, please don't murder your child today. And the second message is you can be forgiven in Christ.
Yes.
So we proclaim the gospel to them. And the third thing we say is, we'll help you. What do you need from us? We'll give you anything that you need. So there's really only three parts to that. One, don't kill your baby. Two, this is the gospel. And three, we'll help you. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's all the message we have. Yeah. And through that message, we have seen thousands of children across the country literally saved from death. They're alive today. They are alive today because people have gone out and proclaimed the gospel at the abortion mill. And then at the same time, we have a listing of local resources that shouldn't take you more than an hour to look up, whether it's pregnancy centers, whether it's hospital stuff, doctors, whether it's adoption services, shelters for women. And this is what's important too about the local church doing this. Our local church is all unified together in this, and we have a number of families in our church that are ready for adoption. We have a lawyer who can write up all the stuff for adoption, so we're on standby with that. And so I would say, if somebody said, I want to get started with this, I would say, well, then go to endabortionnow.com. What we've tried to do there with that website is we've tried to provide a platform from which you can launch. So when you go to endabortionnow.com, you get connected and sign up with your local church. And what we do is we send you out a kit that has some helpful signs that you can hold out there for the women to see that say, we'll adopt your baby, please don't hurt your baby. We also have stuff that you would need for training and resources, answering arguments, responding. So everything we have at endabortionnow.com is free. We don't charge anybody for anything whatsoever. We want to remove every excuse for Christians to say they can't do this. So there's not a charge, not a penny, not a dime. Everything is free. All the training videos are free. The resources are free. The kit is free. Everything is absorbed by Apologia Church. We take that cost.
That's awesome.
We've raised money for the last 2 years to be able to do this, and God's been really faithful to us and blessed us in that. But we've been able to provide all this at absolutely no cost to the church.
Yeah, and the big thing I see in this is, it's one of those things that this sort of movement, it calls out both sides of the issue. So we're calling out sinners.
Yes.
But we're also calling out the church for not, either not doing anything, or like you said, we have done things politically,
right?
But we have not grabbed our hermeneutic, which is God and His revelation,
right?
And followed suit from there. So it's the same thing, like I said, presuppositional style apologetics.
Absolutely. Sort of
like it's that holistic approach from the revelation of God. And so that's really right. you are also calling out Christians. So a lot of, I hope that people that aren't believers that are ready to make snide remarks about, well, you guys don't do it, so well, what are you going to do about it? And it's one of those things that, well, this kind of movement does sort of have an apologetic against both sides of the argument, because we have allowed sort of herd mentality things going on to where it's like, well, we'll just give the government the power to do this, and we'll try to persuade them to do it for us, instead of what did Christ call us to?
Right.
And so we've got to be the church, don't we? And so that's what I love about this movement, is it's objective. It's going, here's your wrong, here's my wrong. What are we going to do about it to make things right?
Yes, and people, sometimes Christians often ask, like, well, what level am I supposed to be involved in this? And not everybody is called necessarily to stand outside of an abortion mill and to put a microphone in their hand and call out to the women. Not necessarily. However, Proverbs 24 says in verse 10, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. It says, rescue those who are being taken away to death. Hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. And that's a powerful command in Scripture, that we are, as God's people, to rescue those who are being taken away to death and to hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. There's no better vivid display of what that text is talking about than what's taking place at the abortion mills. And here's what's critical. In that same passage in verse 12, Proverbs 24:12, right after God gives the command to do this kind of thing, he says this, if you say, behold, we did not know this, does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who keeps watch over your soul know it? And will he not repay man according to his work? That is devastating.
Yeah.
What God says there is that you are to rescue those who are being led to the slaughter. And he says that if you say, I didn't know, God, I didn't know. God says, doesn't he who weighs the heart perceive it? Doesn't he know it? And he says, and will he not repay man according to his work? That's a terrifying text.
Absolutely.
If we've been given God's revelation and light as to what the truth is, and we particularly have light as to what the situation is around us in terms of injustice and murder of children and the innocents, if we've been given that light and we don't respond to it, then we're guilty. And what's important here is for people to hear me, I think, rightly. I am not suggesting that every person has to give up their job and start going out to the abortion mill and preaching the gospel full time on the street. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I am suggesting is that when you've been given the light as to what to do here, and then you don't respond to it in some way, if you're not somehow a part of the solution to rescue these children, then ultimately we all have something to answer for. Absolutely. Who've been given that light. So it could mean that some of us are called to give financially to churches that are involved in this kind of work. Some of us are called to maybe adopt children if we can. Some of us are called to go out to the abortion mill and plead for the lives of these children and preach the gospel. Some of us are called to disciple these women who end up turning away from the abortion mill. There's all kinds of ways we can be involved. There's also the way of actually working together consistently as a church with one unified gospel-centered voice, speaking to the legislature and saying God commands you to do right and to immediately criminalize the murder of innocent unborn human beings. Not legislate it away in terms of incremental stuff, but to actually speak consistently and say we demand an immediate end to abortion.
Right. Well, that's kind of convicting for us, and especially churches in our area, because we have a Planned Parenthood here in Springfield, but it does not perform abortions. Yeah,
luckily, what's just to let you know, Jeff, here we do have that Planned Parenthood. They do a lot more of the actual, healthcare kind of things. It did come
at least
up,
as much as Planned Parenthood does.
As much as they do. But recently, they were thinking about bringing in more of the medical side of things that would end up being more the surgical side of things, and luckily there's been some voting and some issues to where that has kept it at bay for now.
They just put a fence up.
But the thing is that it used to be open grass, open parking lot. But I went down there a couple weeks ago, and I noticed something was different just driving down the street that it's on, and I looked over at it. I wasn't I don't drive by down that street and just always look at the Planned Parenthood with a scowl. I just noticed something different about the area I was in. I looked over there. I'm like, there's something that they're thinking about that's going to go on.
Yeah,
because they did put up a fence.
They're trying to keep people with keep people with these ministries out to where they won't do that. So
but it's,
well, I would imagine I would be willing to bet that they probably do give out the abortion pill at that location.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm sure they do. They just don't do anything surgical. As far as we know they don't. But Planned Parenthood, they boast that they're a beacon of women's healthcare, but really outside of abortions, they do very little.
But so luckily, in Springfield, there is no excuse because there's so many more things here in this town that are not Planned Parenthood that actually provide healthcare. And that's it. So that's the thing is like the big argument. Well, who's going to take care of us? Well, there's tons of other people
like
out there.
Like your regular doctor.
For some reason, you want the it's all about the logo, the big pink PP. It's like there's so many other things that we could throw our money at.
I've tried to offer a critiques that people can capture and never forget. So I try to give as many one-liners that are devastating and solid internal critiques of the unbeliever system. Proverbs 26 verses 4 to 5 says, "Don't answer the fool according to their folly, lest they be wise in their own conceit." And then it says, "Answer the fool according to their folly." It says, "Don't answer the fool according to their folly, lest you be like unto them." And then it says, to answer the fool according to their folly, lest they be wise in their own conceit. And so when someone says to me, well, Planned Parenthood, they're, killing children or they're doing all these abortions, but they also provide, this particular line of care and this care and this care, what I often say is, well, Auschwitz served an excellent chicken soup and they provided jobs and shelter. You can't say that Auschwitz was appropriate because they were housing Jews, giving them jobs and shelter, and they were giving them chicken soup. They were murdering Jews.
Well, that's a really good. Sorry, go ahead.
Just as a powerful thought, that there's all kinds of ways that unbelievers try to rationalize what's not rational.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing if you had a kid that ended up being a psychopath murderer, and you're the parent, and you just remember all the lovely things about them. That's my son, and it's one of those things we have to objectively look at it and go, well, he had a cute upbringing. He had some good qualities. People do that with Adolf Hitler all the time. They go, look, he was
a good painter.
Yeah, he did this, he did that. But no, he was a murderer. The son in the hypothetical situation was a psychopath, and he acted upon that. And we have to deal with the reality that, if people are getting murdered, we're going to have this conversation about has Christianity had done more harm than good and try to get rid of Christianity.
Right.
Why can't we get rid of Planned Parenthood if it's doing more harm than good? And it's not doing anything good.
Well,
but it's doing that.
When we talk about the Holocaust, there's a lot of people who say that, abortion is our modern Holocaust. Do you think, Jeff, we will ever get to a point as a culture where we're going to look back on abortion the same way that Germans today look back on German in the 1930s and 40s?
I don't have any question. And that I think particular question in my answer comes down, of course, and I recognize this, to in-house debates within the Christian community in terms of eschatology in the future.
Right.
But my own particular position on the future, I would land there'd be dozens of verses that I would want to go to, but I would want to land squarely on where the Apostle Paul enunciates what the particular future for believers in the world looks like, and that's in 1 Corinthians 15, and this is where I rest everything. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15, he says, he must reign, Jesus, he must reign, so he's reigning now. This is first century writing to Corinth. He must reign until he has placed every enemy under his feet. And he says, and the last enemy, after every enemy is swept under his feet, the last enemy is death. So what I take that to mean is Paul's timeline as Jesus is reigning, putting every enemy under his feet, bringing everything in subjection to himself. And then after all of those enemies go under his feet, then the last one is death. And then Paul says that is when Jesus then delivers the kingdom to the Father as a successful, victorious kingdom. So my own particular persuasion is that Jesus will win the world with the gospel. It's going to be a long, hard work. It's going to come with suffering and trials and difficulties, but I rest my hope there in that passage. And so I do believe with all my heart that someday, I don't know when, maybe in my lifetime, maybe not, maybe we're we're sowing seeds at this point, but I do believe that abortion will be placed under the feet of Jesus, and we will look back in the history books. I think in Christian children, 1,000 years from now, are going to be looking at history books about this Holocaust that happened really around the world, and they'll be gawking at how somebody could do such a thing.
Hashtag post-mill, right?
That's right.
Oh man, well, man, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, it's one of those things. We've taken up at least 45 minutes of your time, Jeff, and we thank you
It's my pleasure.
heartily so much.
Absolutely.
I mean, your ministry again has meant so much to me.
Yeah.
I'm getting emotional now, but it's awesome.
That means a lot.
Give me 1 second here. It's
I'll take over.
Yeah, take over.
Yeah.
Because this is.
Yeah, honestly, Pastor Jeff, I mean, listening to Apologia Radio and the good that End Abortion Now has done, I mean, you know, for people with our somewhat political inclination, you know, we're not all that political, but I went through a period about a year ago where I was sitting and thinking, you know, follow the money of the taxes that we pay, that some of the dollars that I work for are being used, you know, to tear children from the womb.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was something that, you know, just on multiple occasions just knocked me over in tears thinking about, you know, that this is something that I am being forced to fund.
Yes.
And so to see, and you know, being disenchanted with the pro-life movement, even pro-life organizations on campus, you know, I know there's a lot of non-believers that are in them, and on one hand, I'm very glad that they see this as, you know, evil, but on the other hand, you know, they're just there's no gospel presentation. So even if they do get people to stop killing their children, their actions are still not pleasing to God because it's not done in faith, and it's not done inside the gospel. Right. And so sitting and thinking about, you know, how influential End Abortion Now has been, you know, I think you're right. There's no excuse. We all need to be doing more about this, even in Springfield, where they are not, you know, surgically doing abortions yet. And our church, my church, South Creek here in Springfield, we give money to a pregnancy care center here in town. We take up collections several times a year for them because we do want to see these women get the help that they need. But there's so much work to be done. And I know that if abortion came to Springfield, we're a college town, we've got a strong liberal presence, strong secular presence, then it's going to be a hard battle.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And then I think one word, hopefully as an encouraging word for everyone to find some way to be prayerfully involved with your local church is to work together as a community,
right?
As a body of believers under biblical authority, because this is a monster to take down. You really need the local church. It's what does happen at times. People get involved in this issue and they get so disenchanted with the church itself not being consistent and active against this, they actually abandon the church to fight against abortion. You cannot do that. We need to be patient with God's bride, and we need to woo her into the truth and win her to the truth by example. But it's just critical to do this with the local church, and it's also important to recognize that if somebody's in an area where for some reason they don't maybe have an abortion mill in their area, or they just can't get to the abortion mill through work or whatever providential hindrance, what people can do as a church across America is we can all work consistently together to get this message in broadcast into social media, in the public square.
Absolutely.
And what I mean by this message, I mean the gospel-centered message of fighting against abortion.
Amen.
And I mean, we have the tools all at our disposal now. We have no excuse. I can communicate literally around the world right now at the click of a button, and I have people watching stuff or viewing stuff, reading stuff in New Zealand in a second. And so we have no excuse anymore to be able to communicate the good news in the public square. And if you can't get out to the abortion mill, well, I would say, can you share a video on your social media that talks about the gospel conflict against abortion? Can you share the message or the video of me interviewing Tony Lounger?
That's the most public forum we have.
Yeah. And it's the big thing.
They want to use a backdoor approach, and they don't want to be explicitly Christian. Like, exposing that is necessary, not to create war between the pro-life movement and us, but to actually give a healthy, honest critique of the failure of the pro-life movement.
Yeah, and the other thing is, we don't even have to do social media. I mean, that's great and all, but what we need to do is, because In Abortion Now is not here. I know we have we interviewed a man from abolition, or I think it's an abortion abolitionist here in Missouri. But we need to just make sure, if you hear this program and your church hasn't talked about this, talk about it in your church.
Absolutely.
Talk about it with your friends and your circles of people here. Here's End Abortion Now. And then, don't just use social media and stand behind your keyboard.
Yeah.
But actually talk about it
right.
out in the public square with people.
Yeah.
If you can't be at the abortion mill, at least find people. Because, you don't know. You might say something that hits the chord of somebody that goes, oh, there is something like that.
Yeah.
There's something in me that wants to draw me to where I can go to find out what I need and what I need to do. So, I mean, there's so many ways to be involved. Again, you don't have to be the one behind the bullhorn.
Just be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, but talk about it. We need to talk about it. And this is an issue. They always say, don't talk about politics and religion. We're talking about both here.
Right.
And so it's a double whammy. I work in a barbershop. I don't care. I don't care if somebody says something that's, that touches on this. I say something. It doesn't have to be like, oh, you murder or anything. But it's just one of those things of you get the gospel across. You can be like, well, I believe, made in the image of God. It doesn't matter. God has knitted them in the womb. God knows them. Not God already knew their name before before even the world began. It's my theology comes out, and I'm able to talk to people and give them the gospel. And who cares if you find out if anything happens, if you see the results? Who cares? God does.
Right.
God takes care of the results. So don't even worry about what you're doing in this. But we can get involved, and this goes down with anything else that is contrary to the gospel. We need to find out again, if we have received light, no matter what area of that is in, and we're talking about abortion right now, but there's other areas. We need to be talking about it, and it all comes down to, again, the authority of Jesus Christ to tell us that we are commanded to go make disciples, teaching them what he has commanded them. And it goes on and on and on until Jesus comes.
Absolutely.
So,
amen. And I guess the last word here is there's no area in the world that Jesus doesn't have authority over.
Amen.
So
Amen.
Jesus says in Matthew 28:18-20, all authority in heaven and on earth has been, past tense, given to me. He says, go therefore and make disciples of all nations. And what's the therefore? Therefore, it's there because Jesus says he has all authority in heaven and on earth. And as Christians, we often think that Jesus rules over heaven, but Satan, he rules over earth, and Jesus isn't really, concerned with that. But that's not really the message of the scriptures from Old to New Testament. And Jesus says he has all authority in heaven and on earth, and he says, go therefore make disciples of all nations, teaching them to obey. So there's no place where Jesus doesn't have authority. So when someone says, you need to stay out of this as the church, that is totally contradictory in terms of the Christian worldview, because there's no place where Jesus' authority doesn't rest.
Absolutely.
And
Amen.
so whether that's the magistrate, whether that's in my home, whether that's at church, whether that's my personal life, whether that is in the arts and music and television and movies and writing and literature, there's no place that Jesus doesn't rule with final and full authority. And so what the truth is if we don't herald the message of his kingdom and his rule and salvation into every area around us, in some sense, we're being unfaithful. So the question is what light have I been given? What has God exposed and given me knowledge of? And what is he giving me a passion about? And what is he calling me to do? And that is where I need to make a decision. Am I going to love God and neighbor enough to be faithful to say and do something? And so it really is a question of authority. I think a lot of believers, unfortunately, in the evangelical West, think that Jesus has authority in heaven, but not really on earth. Yeah. And that is just that's contrary to the scriptures.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, awesome, Jeff. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much, Pastor Jeff.
Take your time, but I just wanted to, just to put out the plug for anything else. Jeff is the first man that I got to see him talk to Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, agnostic, atheists, and this guy could hug every one of them after their conversation. Right. This wasn't, I had never, ever seen evangelism done at a level where the person that was speaking the gospel also looked in their eyes with the love of Christ.
Right.
And so that's why I got emotional.
Yeah.
So
if you want to see biblical evangelism, watch Jeff Durbin on YouTube. Listen to Apologia Radio and Abortion Now. Apologia Radio is honestly, it's a wonderful podcast. I listen to it, all the time. It's I listened to it this morning, actually. It's wonderful.
And if you're in the Tempe area, McClintock and Elliott, right?
That's right.
If you are somehow in that area and you're watching this, go.
And you just ordained a new elder this weekend, didn't you?
That's right.
Okay, well, congratulations.
After almost a decade, we installed our next elder of Apologia Church in Tempe. We have another elder in Apologia Kauai, but now we have officially our third elder here.
That's awesome.
Apologia Tempe.
Nice.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, congratulations.
Well, praise the Lord for you.
It only took a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it works sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, we thank God for you.
Yes.
Constantly. I always I pray for you guys. We don't know each other, but I pray for you.
Yeah.
We have Jesus Christ in common, and just keep on serving your King. And if there's anything, I know that we're just a little itty bitty podcast, but if there's anything that you would like to release into Springfield, Missouri, just let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
We'd love to have you. I hope we're not a burden on you, or anything. But
No,
thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you, Pastor Jeff. Have a blessed week.
You too, man.
God bless you guys. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Wow.
Wow, that was amazing. Well, I hope you guys seriously. The big thing to take away is that Jesus reigns.
Absolutely.
And murder. Whenever you're talking about somebody that's been made in the image of God, that God is mindful of. I mean, we read in the Psalms that we're so insignificant, yet God is mindful of man, that He is given us dominion over the ox and the rest of the thing. And the thing is we're just ready to willy-nilly, just because whatever arbitrary, stupid reason, are just willing to kill and take away life. We want to play God, and this is another thing. We want to play God. We want to come up with the right justification, feel good about it. Whatever feels good, whatever makes whatever. I mean, they're so arbitrary. But the thing is, whenever it comes to abortion, we need to talk.
Absolutely.
It's not been talked about for so long. If the church is absent, no wonder the world around us is going, "Where are you guys?"
Yeah.
They might not they hate God, they hate His people, but they're looking to us for an answer.
Absolutely.
So let's answer them. So if there's anybody in the Springfield area, out and about, if you hear this, if you're in earshot of the podcast, the live cast, go to endabortionnow.com. Like you said, there's materials up there.
Yeah.
There's videos that
It's all free.
bring. And you don't have to teach it. Just give it to somebody.
Yeah.
Let somebody know about this. Give it to somebody.
Show it to
They
your
can
pastors.
watch it.
Show it to your elders.
Yeah, and they could figure out a way to use it. We have 52 weeks a year where we meet at least. There's ample amount of time for this to get talked about. And then there's ample amount of time, Lord willing, for us to get together and do it. So let's stop talking. Let's stop complaining and do something about it. So, but
absolutely.
Anything to add?
No, I mean, I think, at the end of the day, sometimes it's, hard for us to remember that God is still sovereign over abortion. And a lot of Christians struggle with this with evangelism. They feel like they go out, and they're faithful in spreading the gospel, but they're just not seeing many conversions. Well, God is in charge of conversions. He's the one that saves us. We just have to be obedient. And it's the same thing with abortion. We may not make a lot of progress here in our small city with Planned Parenthood that doesn't actually perform abortions, but we're being obedient, and we are bringing a gospel-centered message, preaching the word of God, preaching against murder to people who desperately need to hear it. And although these women, the pro-life movement views them solely as victims, whereas the abolitionist movement rightly views them as perpetrators of a crime, which is murder. But at the same time, they are in desperate need of the gospel, just like we were. I mean, they are they're us without God's Spirit. And so
there's the law and there's grace. So if anybody, within earshot of this, if you've had an abortion, that can be forgiven. There's
Absolutely.
I'm not going to view you any differently because I came out of sin too.
Absolutely.
But it's just one of the things is whichever side of the coin you're on. If you are unrepentant, I have to tell you
absolutely
the law.
Yeah.
And if you are willing to be repentant, I welcome you in, and it's no harm, no foul, because
Absolutely.
God doesn't remember that stuff.
Right, and neither do we.
That is His new covenant promise, that He would remember your sins no more.
Yeah.
And so, who am I, who is not God, to hold that against you for the rest of your life? Going every time you make a mistake, remember where you came out of. It's one of those things of, no, you're here, you're a Christian, and hey, you screwed up here, but hey, you believe in God, you hold on to Christ. Let's make things better because of the gospel that continues through our lives. So if you're thinking about abortion, don't.
Yeah.
Find me, find Adam, find just
we have
somewhere.
Avenues. We have ways to help.
Yes, we could figure out something.
Yeah.
There's ample opportunities, and there's the providence of the Creator of the universe in that situation for you.
Yeah.
If you've had an abortion and maybe you're feeling like you just can't show up in a church, there's the Way, there's South Creek, there's Redeemer, there's multiple Boulevard. We've had Doug Shivers on. He will give you the biggest hug of your life, and he's like the coolest, biggest teddy bear kind of a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you will find the love of Christ here in Springfield. So please, if you've had one and you haven't thought about going to church because you couldn't show your face, well, you're feeling shame for a reason, but please let that be a righteous shame that leads you to the love of God and forgiveness, and to know that forgiveness, especially within the covenant community of Christ. So
the only way to find true peace is through the gospel. The only way to find true forgiveness, even of the most heinous sins, is through the gospel. And, at any gospel-centered church like Adam and I go to, if you come in there and, you're looking for peace and you come to try to find answers, and, you tell an elder or someone at the church that, you feel guilty because you've done this, then they are going to be, ecstatic and loving you, and they're going to want to take you out to dinner. We're going to want to, sit down with you and make sure that all your needs are met, and make sure that, you understand that there is a God who is sovereign over His creation and who loves His creation. And so the only way to find that true peace is through the gospel and through a gospel-centered church.
Yeah. So, well, awesome, guys. Well, thanks for hanging in there with us. Thanks for dealing with my little sentimental, emotional moments. But anyway, it's been an awesome episode.
Yeah,
and I'll leave you with that. So I guess with that said, I'm Ray.
I'm Adam.
And this is the T.A.G podcast. Soli
Deo
Gloria. Now I've got to hit that button. Oh, getting old.